Welcome to the Atomic Real Estate Show, Philadelphia's #1 real estate podcast and a Direct Subs production. Real estate investing is not rocket science, and on our show, we'll delve into best practices with a focus on the small things that add up over time. Please enjoy the authentic, informative, and actionable show with our host, Paul Jagelski.
Hello and welcome to the Atomic Real Estate Show, a podcast dedicated to exploring the world of real estate investing in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Whether you're a seasoned investor or just getting started in the industry, this show is for you. Join us as we dive into the latest trends and insights into the Philadelphia real estate market and hear from our expert guests who share their knowledge and expertise within investing in this dynamic city. This show is brought to you by Direct Subs. Please check them out at directsubs.com, focusing on building connections for investors and contractors throughout the greater Philadelphia area. The Atomic Real Estate Show is your go-to resource for all things real estate in Philadelphia. I'm Paul Jagelski, your host. Now sit back, relax, and let's explore the world of Atomic Real Estate together.
I met a lot of really good people. And some people today that are really successful in the real estate game, they were starting around that time as well. So I really cut my teeth in School of Hard Knocks, like grinding.
Yeah, dude, you really built it. Like, this was not a freaking, hey, I wrote a check and I took over a company and I run it. This was quite literally.
No. I still have the sign on my desk in the first office. There used to be a sign company on the street. And I literally had $120. And I go in there, I'm like, what can I get for $120? And they gave me this plexiglass sign. So I thought it was cool. Put it up myself. Put all the furniture together, and then a year and a half in, we started getting busier. We went from our 500 square foot space. They go into the landlord and saying, "Hey, we have staff, and there's 6 of us in 500 square feet.
We need a little bit
very
more
very incestuous." So what we wound up doing was we end up moving the office. They're like, "Well, look, you can take the rest of the office space." So I'm like, we're going to move out. They had some estimators that are in there. They were actually on the decline too, because the market hadn't quite hit as hard there. So this is around 2010, maybe, beginning of 2010. So we're still, struggling. Enough that we needed the space though. So we went over, we renovated one half of the office. So then we were working out of one side, literally one side of the office. And we renovated the other side. We moved everyone over and then renovated the other side. And then we spread out through the whole building.
House hacking, business hacking, I mean.
So at night, about 5 or 7 o'clock, we're probably, because we're working till midnight every night for the first 5 years. What ended up happening was we would do it at night. Like, I would do the work. So we'd get done, and then I get changed the bathroom and paint.
Become a contractor.
Totally. And then did that for a long time. But there was a lot of instances like, just stuff like that.
God bless you, dude.
And along the way, there were so many things that, went wrong, you know what I mean? And so many that went right,
Well, and that's the thing. There are so many things that always go wrong, but as long as you learn from them, you'll get the things that go right. And those are always so much more rewarding than things that go wrong. And when you look back on it, the things that went wrong are really what taught you all the shit nowadays anyway. Yeah. Like, the things that went right, you look back, you're like, fuck, that didn't really teach me anything, but it was really cool to do that.
There was a person who really helped me scale on the commercial side, and to this day we try to do some work together. His name is Bill Bostic. He owns Access Construction, and there were a couple really integral people like that, like Gary Jonas from Howe Properties was really good to me. Andrew Eisenstein from Ironstone Strategic Capital Partners. These are people that our firm worked for over a decade, pretty consistently. Andrew the longest, off and on with Billy, the funny thing is we used to do happy hours, So besides killing, shortening my life with all the hours of working, it was also killing my liver with happy hours so I could get more business. But and also making really good inroads with good people that had good advice. But a lot of that came down to during that period of time, like they would ask me questions like, "What's your break even?" And I'm like, what's a break even?
Yeah, right.
I'm sorry, I don't know what that means. Could you please tell me what that means? Like,
I just quit my job last week.
Like, well, how do you pay yourself? I'm like, well, I pay everyone else as much to the degree I can, and if there's anything left over, that's what I pay myself, And we do that every month. So there's a lot to be learned in the entrepreneurial world. I don't care what you're doing.
I'm living it right now. I'm starting my property management company. as of this year and so forth for all of our companies or all of our properties. So I get it.
Yeah.
It literally is, and I get it. That's why I use this as my office for this thing. Because
Trust me. So in the like you fast forward to after 2008, I think it's been going on. I think it's 7 years now. We really outgrew the office. We outgrew it probably 5 years before we moved out of it.
That's awesome.
And just in terms of our material libraries and things for our interior side of our business. And during that period of time, we went from Morrissey Design, which was doing interiors and residential only. We launched M Architects, which was our architectural planning firm with some licensed partners that I teamed up with, guys that actually, and we were scaling our firm in that capacity for a period of time. And then, I did some other things in business that some of them you could look at as setbacks, and I really don't look at anything that way anymore.
Yeah, you can't anymore. It's just a learning lesson.
So then I got this great idea when we're doing this hospitality, because we're working for all these restaurateurs, designing all these really amazing spaces. At that time, we were getting known, I thought, to a degree for doing hospitality branding, and we, as part of what we were doing, I mean, Morrissey Design stayed and did what we called, but interior design and environmental branding, because they came hand in hand, because we were doing apartment buildings with M Architects, and then we were being asked to do wayfinding and interior signage and all that. So it was really a niche that we were trying to fulfill, and then when we were being asked to do, and it's like, all right, how do we identify this? So it's like, finding markets within our own client base that made sense for us, and stuff we did well. So those were a couple ways that we differentiate ourselves,
really cool.
And continue to do that to a degree. But 7 years ago, there was a client that had office space down in Manayunk, and not too dissimilar, but in a much more sophisticated manner, we actually went ahead and signed a lease with them. And we've been there in a much more larger type building, and we built it not at night, but it was actually finished before we moved in. So it was a whole new reckoning for me. And in that period
had to feel nice though.
Oh my god! So then I get this itch that after surviving all those series of flops, right, and then success stories, I decided that I want to diversify what I'm doing. So I pick a really, really great business to get into, and it's restaurant business. To which I almost went out of business multiple times during that period of time.
I'm sure you did.
That's
why I always were willing to run them for other people.
Yeah.
I didn't want them.
If I had gone through an excruciating period of time where I, built a business that was in business for, I guess at that time we a decade.
Damn.
So close to it, and then if I'm doing the math right, and then so opened up the restaurant world, and then it did some confusing things though. A lot of people thought I was gotten out of design work, and I hadn't. So they're like, "Oh, you're just doing restaurants." And I'm like, "Whoa, no, that's not the case. We're actually, this is something that kind of was born out of doing all this work and just a creative itch." And totally screwed that up more times than I could. But I like doing things that are challenging, and we went. So that was cool because I named it, built it, but that didn't have the money to really hire a proper general contractor. So at that time, I was doing part of the work at night. And so when we opened, I think I weighed like 150 pounds because from 190, because I was literally on my feet 24/7. The restaurant actually is it's my daughter's first two initials her name and our last name Morrissey. That's why it's called Somo.
Ah.
So I went through it was
That's so cool, dude.
I guess. Yeah, it is now because it does really well and it's become a neighborhood go-to.
I was gonna say, my brother also lives in Manayunk and he still goes there all the time.
A lot of
whenever
people
we go down there, that's pretty much him and the Goat's Beard are the two that he likes to go to.
So if it wasn't enough, then we all had COVID, and there's other things we can go look back on, but in terms of starting the business, during COVID, right beforehand, I happened to bump into a person who we had done some work, who had been teamed up with another developer, and his name is Mike Stom, Stom Development Group.
That's what he said. It sounds really familiar.
So Mike, we bumped each other. Our birthdays happened to be a day apart, and it was around right after Christmas time, so I was like, hey, we should get together. This is a true story. And I was like, he's like, yeah, let's do it. So before COVID hit, I forget what month that was. It was
March 18th or something like that.
We meet like a month or so before that. And I was like, listen, I'd really like to do your work. I was with my partner, Zamir Garcia. So Zamir and I went to a meeting with him and left the meeting thinking, okay, you know what I mean? And our practice had we'd gone from 10 persons down to like 2. And then when Zamir came on, we started building up our team again, because during that period of time with the restaurant stuff, it became very distracting.
Oh, I'm sure.
So until I had to rebuild and scale that up, at the same time bringing the firm up to the same level. So it was a tough period. I mean, a couple things happened that weren't great, but it also taught me, like, you know, that you gotta see through it, and you gotta just, you know, bunker down. So in doing that, one thing happened was we started doing a lot of work with Mike, and then COVID happened, and we were drawing like crazy. I mean, everyone in my office at the time really adapted well. So then I got this restaurant business that's now shut down. I got my firm that's shut down. And the first time in my adult life, I don't have anywhere to go for work.
Wasn't that so weird?
It was great, to be honest with you, because, you know, having more jobs and,
no, I get it.
You know, to deal with and more fires to put out, the world had slowed down, and it was actually a good time. I know that doesn't sound good. There was a lot of unfortunate stuff.
Dude, I quit my corporate job 6 months before COVID,
right.
So and got into real estate, which was then shut down for 6 months.
but what was amazing was Mike was just like, you know, he's like, we're just gonna keep moving. So, and not to say the first day that they tell the world they have to go home, I wasn't feeling well, and I had just been traveling to South Florida, and I came back. And I was visiting
you
my
were
friends.
patient one.
And I had COVID. So the first day, and then I'm looking at the ceiling for 2 weeks thinking I'm going to die every day.
Yeah, Jesus.
Come out of that, and we just went to work, and we started doing a lot of multifamily, and we were all working remotely. We set that up, and the staff just crushed.
That's awesome.
And then during that period of time, you know, things started opening up in other states more so than Pennsylvania. And that's what launched us moving to South Florida and supporting, you know.
Damn, so COVID actually is what got you down there.
I mean, there was talk of it before, and, you know, had worked there for so long.
Yeah.
Because I moved in the high school, I worked for a firm in Coral Gables off and on. And then I would go back, and then during this college, I considered transferring to University of Miami at the time. And so I would spend some summers working for a firm called the Russell Partnership. They did a lot of university work. They did, and it's a different type of market. But when I graduated, I ended up moving there and taking a job with them. And then this is going back to that time. But going back to Florida was always a goal.
That's awesome.
So this past month, we just signed a lease on a space in my old stomping ground in Los Olas Boulevard.
Nah.
So we're going to open our office, and we haven't announced it yet, so this is the first time I'm talking about it. And so we just finished the drawings for it. It's going to be a small satellite office. And
up by the restaurants like YOLO and all that?
Yeah, exactly. So
get the hell out of here.
It's on Los Olas Boulevard.
Dude, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's 0.7 miles to the beach. Not that I haven't checked. The goal, though, is, you know, for the staff and the expansion. Like, I found that we were working on it pretty feverishly the last 4 years. And one thing I've noticed is that I think for us to create a better market share there and to be identified as a firm that can really navigate the Florida market in a really, you know, valid way, I think having an office there and being able to grow what we do is honestly is a goal of mine since I opened the firm. I always thought, you know, what the coolest thing, and like, it's not to put things to the pinnacle because it's a peakless mountain, right? So, but the point is like having that there, and I think too, like what we've learned about ourselves after, 15 years in business is that our firm, you know, it has a can-do spirit. It really, and I think we're suited to work in a lot of markets, but one of them I think that we excel is I think in delivering, you know, unique design and like one-off branding if it's a hospitality venture or otherwise. And on the luxury end of it, I think with, you know, people's homes and multifamily and all that, I think creatively, you know, our work could speak to doing more of that and being more immersed in that type of work. Although, you know, no ego, you don't want any ego getting in the way. You know, we will draw anything. I mean, you know, markets, even now, market's a little different here in Philadelphia.
Ooh, because that's going to become one of my big questions for you is about the different markets, especially since I knew you went to the two different places out of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, Dude, I love it down there. My goal is to get back down there. I have a 14-year plan to get back down there.
Yeah.
My wife can stay up here. She wants to stay up here with her family, but I will be back down in Florida at one point in my life.
Yeah.
That's my retirement out of it. I can't wait to get back down there. So that's awesome that you're down there. And if you got space on Las Olas, man, talk about foot traffic. Talk about eye candy that's just going to always be walking by and seeing your logo and seeing your name, because that is tourist 101 down there.
Yeah, and it's, for us, it's like, being able to have the support of my team. I mean, they're amazing, right? So it's like being able to, trust that, we're doing things up here and taking care of business here. And, I think it's exciting. I mean, it not only for those reasons, but I think, for the bringing on new talent, finding new talent, is the opportunities that we have they're boundless.
Yeah.
And like, I love doing design. It's, it's in my blood. I mean, my mother was a fashion designer. My dad was a pioneer in his industry and human resources and a guru in that respect. So it's like, having those skill sets and I guess those genes, I mean, it's helped, I think, in a way, me to be a little more mindful of me, and there's a lot of growth that's happened, you know what I mean? You learn that this is not how people react well to environments in an office, or if you're going to inspire people. So we're going through, and we've done a lot of good work in terms of, going from a practice into a business in terms of how we operate. And so we've really sought out, and I can speak only to the team that I have that has been amazing, and even how we found how we delegate work and how we target and keep schedule. I mean, it's we recently did this assessment, this personality assessment. We brought in this outside consultant, and then so you think you know somebody, right?
Yeah, no, really.
And then you do these assessments, and some people think it's voodoo. It's not. If it's nothing more than it gets you talking about how everyone is so different from one another, and then you begin to realize, like, well, yeah, we are, right? So, and there's things like, I'll give you an example. There's a high performer in our office, and it basically states, if we have a meeting and it's not on time, and you're not there on time, like, I'm essentially pissed off. If it doesn't end when we say it's going to end, I'm essentially pissed off. Well, if you get to know me for any length of time, I push those boundaries on a regular basis. Meetings typically start a little later. I'm usually a few minutes late for a lot of things, although I was on time today. But I think in general, like, you start to like really, and that's where, like, I think, it's like learning who's on your team, and like, okay,
they actually have layers to them. It's not just this one top layer that I see every day.
You're not all like me. I didn't realize I was an alien. You know what I mean? Until I read this thing. So, and it's really cool, I think, to and so like to have that culture and what we're doing, and really, being really intentional. And so everything we do now, and I do now more than ever, is with the, kind of seeing before it happens, if that makes any sense. And so I think that's what enabled us to do the Florida thing. And now we've been down there pretty regularly, setting up and, hooking up with other developers. We're getting ready. And the way I found the office was, I was looking for a place to buy, to develop a home.
Damn.
So I looked in the areas I knew that, where the outsales were. Mm-hmm. So this also struck me too. Okay, so I set up a few different viewings of real estate. So up here, things in the $1.5 million, $2 million market, and maybe a little less than $1 million. They're probably sitting a little longer right now, right? I go down there and I go into this home, and it's amazing, right? And I could put an addition on it, and the cost per square foot, like knowing what we've been doing in the Delray and Palm Beach County market, you get an understanding of what the cost of construction are, and over almost 4 years or so with Sam's group and all the builders that he uses, they've been really great, because it's given us a real insight into what happens there. And
absolutely, yeah.
Here's the difference though between here and there. I get to a viewing, look at a real estate viewing, and I set up a few with the agent that I met, and I'm like, look, I need a mortgage contingency, and the guy, they all smile at you, and they say, that's cute, because there's 4 people in the driveway that don't need a mortgage contingency, and they're going to come in and they're all cash buyers.
Jesus.
So I went down for 2 months straight, and every property that I looked at all had cash buyers. Every single one. And they would close within more than 30 days or earlier than 30 days.
Yeah.
So
true cash out of it.
So every time I got on a plane with my tail between my legs to come back to Pennsylvania, I realized that there's if you think about it, I'm no statistician, but you got baby boomers, you have all these people, and they're moving to other markets like the Florida market, and not that my eggs are in one basket. Philadelphia is my home. I think there's one thing about Philadelphia is the grittiness of it, and the persons here are sophisticated. There's amazing opportunity here, just like there is there.
Yeah.
And so for us, it's just the scale and the way we are. I think it's unique for us to be able to work in both, and we've proven it already. And that's also too something that didn't have the full confidence in years ago as we do now, because we're doing remote meetings and and using new software that helps us to track and chart projects and goal setting. So.
And you mentioned it before. You guys like to be able to see into the future out of it, if not actually make the future out of it. Why not go down to Florida and Miami, where it's the trend? I mean, it's the forefront. It's the California of the East Coast out of it. And then being up here with, as you say, the nitty gritty, you get a nice blend, man. I mean, you get the forefront out of it, and then you get some nice historical back, and you can blend the two out of them and bring them up and down for each other. But that's one of my big questions to you is how do you actually look at, especially Philadelphia, and I know Florida we can get into as well, but Philadelphia, almost block to block, historically, the houses are different. The architectural is different. The sizes, the rooms, the street setbacks, the trees, all of it. I mean, we have so much historical build around it. So how do you and your company actually stick to that, try and design around that, but yet still modernizing at the same time?
Yeah, I mean, we design for our client first and foremost. So, I think we do a good job at the upfront. I like to believe that when we meet with a client, we listen to them, we pay attention to what their goals are, and then, it, Philadelphia is we're in Chestnut Hill right now, just a half a block up. We did the Chestnut Hill Hotel.
Get out.
We did the market there. We did some of the interior room design. We did the fairway, which is the outside area.
Yes.
We did the brewery there down the street here.
It's like my weekend getaway with my kids.
Yeah, it's a cool spot, and that was a cool opportunity during I think a good growth period where we were seeing more and more of not just different types of projects, and then just down the street here we designed the interior of the old Crescent Cottage, which is Jansen, was with the amazing chef.
Yes.
And then just up and down the avenue, a block over on Ardley, we did I think they're the highest outgrossing sales homes. Their two homes are white brick. They're right on Ardley.
I think I know what you're talking about. Yep.
And then up on Chestnut Hill Ave, we've done historic renovation there. So we're pretty, and I say to a credit of the staff too. I mean, past staff and even our current, which is I think the strongest it's been entire. I don't think it is. My partner, in fact, has got a lot of experience and like me, and working in different markets, and different design aesthetic and style. So
it's so cool.
It's been very cool. And then we love doing modernism and types of projects like that. One project we did design, I guess it's 3 years ago now. It's called the Beverly. It's down on Northern Liberties.
Okay.
It was our first time we ever applied. This is kind of funny. We never applied for an AIA award for M Architects. So we had all these ambitions of submitting all these projects. Well, it's the week before the deadline, and Zamir, my partner, calls me and says, "Hey man, we don't have enough time to do all those projects. We should at least get one in." So I'm like, "All right, which one?" I'm like, "Let's do the Beverly." So we put the proposal together, and then we get notification that we won an award. We have no idea why. Not because we don't think our work's good, because we didn't know what the hell was going on. And
I know, just the way it came out.
I mean, what do you mean we won? You know what I mean? He's like, "Yeah, we won." And I'm like, "Okay." I'm like, "Well, which one?" He's like, "No, we have to go." So I'm like, "All right." So we got some of the staff together, and we invited our client. Actually, it happened to be Mike Stom. He was a really good friend of mine and just a visionary in a lot of ways. But during that period of time, so we go there, and we're there, and it's going on and on and on. And At this point, I think that we've been mistakenly invited because they've been giving out awards all night. We haven't won anything. So I'm like, oh shit. I'm like, at least
we got the pity invite.
we got a meal out of it. So I think we actually paid for our tickets. So we're down 2 thumbs down at this point. So then what ended up happening was that we win the Silver Design Award, which was a real amazing thing to have happen. And so that was like in its own right, really, really great. And then since then, I should speak on other clients that we've met that have been just like amazing. There's a group called BBG Capital who has been unbelievable in terms of opportunities for us. Another way, I think, if I'm answering your questions, BBG is just like a unique company with 3 partners, and they've really they're exploring doing a lot of multifamily and other things, and they're doing single family development. Some even on the affordable end, which is a different thing for us, which is pretty cool.
Yes.
So they were amazing. Navigated Justin Beasy, who navigated the land bank project in Philly, and is doing. I mean, it's amazing how well he did this, right? And I think it's like kind of unheard of. He did an amazing job getting through that process, and some of those buildings are being built now. It's great, right? You can't price everybody out of the city. I mean, it's in truth. I mean, it speaks to, I think, a mature development team who is really understanding that, in fact, like this is a responsibility to I think the city. So,
and I have to 100% agree, because right now my biggest, it's not fear, but almost issue, problem, something along those lines, where we're talking tons and tons of multifamily coming in here. I mean, developments anywhere from 2 to 20, 50 units, 100 units in some places. And then we're also talking about a ton of $1 million and above single families.
Yep.
But we're forgetting about that below $1 million single family, even that below $500,000 single family. We're buying these $350,000, $450,000 single families. They got good lots on them. We're taking them down, and we're putting back up multifamilies. So no, being responsible to the neighborhood and being responsible to the overall city is phenomenal. And the fact that you're bringing that up just kind of highlights it to me as well. Like, we need some of these. We need some single families coming in.
Look, and they're quality design. I mean, we don't go about them any differently.
Exactly.
The layouts are, I think, speaking on our work, I think the layouts are no different than we would do on a higher end model. So, and I think, to the degree that the finishes and all that are, thoughtful. I mean, we still, and a credit to our developer client is, in this case, they actually, they hire us to do all the interior selections. And then,
that's awesome.
Yeah, totally. It's not like they're
not cutting corners.
Absolutely not.
That's phenomenal.
And I think that's amazing. I mean, to treat every project as if they're, one is no different than the other.
Literally the goosebumps from it, because we need it. We really, really do. Because as you said, we're about to price the city out.
Yeah.
And that's a problem.
Well, I mean, too, it's not much easier. I think it's the tax abatement go on is I don't think people realize how much of an impact it's having now, but it definitely, we've seen it. I mean, we're pretty fortunate. We do, Adam from our team, he's amazing licensed architect. He handles really the quality control and the construction administration oversight of projects in the office. So along with Zamir and obviously the rest of our team supported that. But we have a number of projects right now that are either coming out of the ground, almost close to completion. So there's 2 in the Manayunk area, Roxville area. There's a couple downtown. There's some in Graduate Hospital, and then there's stuff throughout the city that is, more boutique style that are being built that are 4 to 10 units, and they're not a good amount of them have been out sales or they're holds for whomever.
Yeah.
So.
See, downtown, I'm not opposed to the multifamily, because I think we need a couple more of those downtown.
Yeah.
Just tax purposes and stuff like that on my own end on that one. But yeah, the Manayunk Roxborough area right now can hold off on a few more. We need some single families in there, but so that's phenomenal. You guys really are all over the place.
Yeah, we it's too. We've seen in the hospitality realm, like with bars and restaurants and things like that. We've had a couple clients that have been with us for almost since the beginning, since 2010 and 12, and One in particular, we just finished a large ground up restaurant. It's going to be in Royersford, Pennsylvania. It's with McGurk's, which we've done the one in Bel Air, Maryland. We did the Fort Washington location, the Horsham location. We just did one in Lionsville, Pennsylvania. We started this project, the design of the one in Royersford, before COVID, and then the week COVID happened, we had finished the permit drawings, and Zamir was signing off on them, and our client's like, I'm not doing this. I'm not going to build a 13,000 square foot restaurant. I can't put anybody in it. So then right after COVID, he called up and said, his name's John. John called up and said, hey, we're going to go forward with that now. So we were just at the pad site the other day, and come full circle, the same landlord, right? This is weird, but the same landlord that I had in my first office in Flourtown was a rigid frame type building. So he and the owner of McGurk's knew each other from high school, and they're doing the shell and core of the building. So it's just I don't know. It's such a small
dude. I was gonna say your network is all so entwined. It's awesome.
Yeah,
and you've really got like some Philly staples in that network as well.
Yeah, we're pretty fortunate.
Like that's awesome, dude. I mean, names that like people who only come here every once in a while would actually understand and know out of it too.
Yeah.
Dude, you've built such a cool brand.
Thanks, man.
And I mean that like, it's so, I mean, I'm literally getting goosebumps from your story here because the places you've touched and your fingerprints on, again, are staples here within our city.
Honestly, it comes with just having good clients. I mean, look, there's tough ones along the way, but in general, I mean, the perseverance of them and navigating markets like the COVID era and coming out of 2008 and, I mean, unfortunately, we've seen it all. So I think the next, we're being real strategic now about the next 10 to 15 years in terms of the firm and where we want to take it, So it definitely, as we already spoke on, is in other markets like we've been working in already. It's not new to me.
Yeah.
It's definitely not new to our firm at this point. There's a real comfort level in being down in the Florida market as well as the Pennsylvania market. We do work also outside of these areas. So we have work we're doing right now in Delaware.
Okay.
We've always been real fortunate in having clients like some really creative wealth management groups, even which sounds sort of like an oxymoron, but like there's a group, they also become consultants for us called March Forward. We designed a satellite office for them in Fishtown, and now they're headquartered in Conshohocken.
Oh, cool.
So that project's starting, and then we just did one in Delaware, not too dissimilar, and we teamed up in a design build with another company. So that also we're doing repeated work with, and that's really helped us along the way as well to diversify what we do. And it's always been a calling card of I think how we really navigate, like, if there's a slowdown in one market and, being a little bit more nimble, we're not a one-trick pony to a degree, and always kind of recreating ourselves, I think. But it's been a good ride, and, maybe we'll do some more restaurant stuff.
Dude, you got so much going on up there at once. How do you literally decompress? Like, what is it that gets you to just be like, I can have a clear brain again?
That's a good question. Lately, I don't know. We're not getting any younger. I've taken a real initiative in making sure that I work out as much as I possibly can, and got some good people that help me. I mean, during COVID, if you remember, gyms all shut down, so started boxing with a trainer, private one-on-one stuff, and then been doing that a lot more just to, and I really enjoy that. So that's been good, and that's how, unleash a little bit of angst or anger and supposed to, take it out other ways. But that's been kind of cool. But traveling too, and I think setting out and trying to do new things and challenging.
That's cool.
I think honestly, I get my identity for what I do in terms of design and creating things, and I get, like prescription in a weird way, I get off on it, like having, trying to do something new and finding myself either, I don't want to be completely lost in it, but learning along the way. I think, and I think there's a lot more room for that, and, having good people around me, and I don't know, I guess conversating with persons like yourself and other people, like a lot of my personal relationships, like friendships and what have you, have been born out of working relationships with clients.
It's awesome.
Which is totally awesome. I mean, like, that's a gift.
Yep. When you can turn a client into a friend and that friend into like an actual family member within your realm, there's nothing better. I mean, because now they know you through all the different little personal ways. They know you through the business side of it. They've seen you stressed. They've seen you happy. That's so cool out of it.
I do have I'm a dad, the daughter,
Okay.
Sophia, who I mentioned early on. And so she keeps me sharp, you know. She's 13 going on 25.
Jesus, God bless you.
Yeah, so she, I take, I don't really take shit from many people, but she definitely serves up. She's great, she's a sharp. She's also when we get together, we share a lot of good times together. You know what I mean?
Well, you mentioned, just staying forefront with the brain, and that's one of the things that I'm learning now through my reading and everything. Is it's one of the best ways to stay young is to keep the brain actually mentally young. Learn new things that you didn't know before. Challenge yourself. Reverse engineer something that you had no idea what it was. And don't just sit there and say, hey, there's an app for that and get lost in it. Do some research into it. Find out how it works, why it works, and so forth. It's kind of cool because I'm learning things about the Egyptian pastimes that I was like, holy crap. No wonder where that comes from. Mm-hmm. Where, they used to just be a phrase and you're like, I don't know where the phrase comes from, but I know what it means, quote unquote.
Certainly.
But then all of a sudden you actually do some research into it and you're like, oh, we changed that completely from the actual meaning from it.
Yeah.
The one I got into was actually soccer. But that's a story for another day where the meaning behind that actually really comes from.
No, that's cool. Right now, beyond seeking out, some help on the consultancy side, that's been also a good way to, I guess, manage, if you asked before, how you manage these things. And it's sort of, I'm not entirely compartmentalizing things, but, going from one space to the other. In the restaurant world, I've been fortunate after, having some really good people there. But that's always every day is a different challenge.
Especially in that world.
Yeah, absolutely.
Every day, every hour could be a different challenge in that world. Every day, every hour, every minute in that world can bring you a different stress world. But dude, I can't believe, you're in the restaurant industry.
Well, the fact that you were in it is really amazing.
That's why I laugh at it.
Yeah.
Because you need a tough skin to be in it. And you hold yourself very relaxed.
You clearly don't know me.
Most restaurant people that I know, I'm Paul. Most restaurant people that I know out of it, they're pulling their hair out literally because there's every hour something going on. And meanwhile, you're taking on projects. You're going down to Florida. You're figuring out how to grow your firm. You're like, the restaurant's the easy part, whatever.
Well, the office, that's the thing about the firm. Right now we're able to, I think, do what we're targeting and aiming to do, and being very intentional about it is without a good team and some of the organization that we've been building, it's not possible. And even down there, in a short period of time, I'll tell you, the world is funny, right? So as I told you, we went down and closed on a property that we're going to do as a development project. So, part of a passion for mine is being able to. I recently finished I was telling you, I have a home here. I bought a home in 13. It was built in 1952, a mid-century modernist house. And a total dump, for all intents and purposes. It had been built.
This is your home.
Yeah, well, it had been the owners who owned the home had built the home. It was a husband and wife, and they built the house, right? And the home, like most, they were older, so taking care of it, having the cash, and to be able to manage, keeping it up, fell by the wayside. Amazing story. They found that it's just on a large parcel, and they found that I loved the home. So, and then I had a daughter. So they, long and short of it, big tearjerker type thing, right? The family that had the home found out about that what I was doing for a living in design work and partner in an architecture firm. And the husband and wife who had passed away, bedside visual at the home, right? And so they had this amazing nieces and nephews that literally grew up at the home with their aunt and uncle. So they pass away, the family finds it, and they never could have children. So I went upon like seeing the home. I'm like, this is great. It's all I could afford, because at that time it pretty deteriorated, right? But in a great area where only the cost of the home could go up with the proper improvements. Anyway, I get that they sell me the house. They sell me for ask, even though they had offers that were over, because they knew I was going to keep the home. So I almost going to change my mind midway through renovating the first time, because the house needed a lot more work, and I'm like, what did I do? But now I signed up for this, right? So I get to a point where it was livable. So renovated, move in, and then years later have now completely renovated the home, put an addition on it, and did it the proper way. So out of that, I love doing construction. I love, it's in part like, it's a very creative process if you do it the right way. So designing it, building it, unfortunately paying for it, and then out of that, I'm like, okay, I really like this. Now I built this thing that I didn't pay all that much money for, and it's worth so much more. And that's what brought me the one, okay, look, I really have a bug in me for wanting to do the development side. And this property that I found came with a set of plans. So I can't make any promises of what I'm going to tell you is actually going to come to fruition, but I called the guy several times, can't get him on the phone. He finally text messaged me and says, James, I'm getting ready to retire. That's why I can't get hold of him. And he said, so I'm like, well, why don't we meet up? I said, because our office is opening a satellite office in Florida, and this could be perfect timing. So as of recent this week, I met with him. He's a second generation architecture firm and planning firm. They do mainly luxury single family. And they've been doing it he's been in the business for 40 years. His dad before him for 20 years before he joined. So it's a 60-year practice, and they have no legacy in place. So this is all brought out these set of plans I happen to call the guy. So I was like a big believer in like this sort of thing. I don't know if it's serendipitous. I don't know what you want to call it, but it's a really I now I'm like, that's like become like my focus now. Is like, this could help us scale. They have a really good, strong team, and some of these guys have been working for this guy for almost 20 years. So it really could be a way for us. We'll get there on our own, but like these are things that I think happen to
take an elevator up rather than freaking climb the mountain, man.
Kinda,
if it's there, take the elevator.
Kinda. So I I just think, you just got to keep at it, and good things will happen.
Dude, you find those conversations. Like you really do. You go out and you make sure you have the conversation, the face-to-face, whatever it is, and then you work your network, and that's beautiful. That is absolutely
even better. The realtor, right? His on Las Olas Boulevard, the one we talked about earlier. Oh. So I say to him, I'm like, listen, do you know any spaces available? And he's like, well, I got space here in my office. And I'm like, he's like, we're not using it. We used to have a lot more, I'm a broker, and we used to have a lot more agents, and now they all kind of work remotely as a result of, yada, yada, yada. And I'm like, well, do you want to sublease the space? Because we'll take it. And he's like, you're kidding. I'm like, no, not at all. And I'm like, so that's how we got the office space. So it's it's small, and it's modest in its own respect, but just in those few moments.
So was Flowertown.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Flowertown started there.
We have a lot more to go. There's a lot more people doing way more cool shit than we do, right? And way more successful and way more years. It's just like, just like these small little victories along the way, and celebrating with like amazing people and with clients, and just, it's hard not to get kind of choked up about it, because it is, in fact, it's like, if you don't enjoy the ride,
what's the point?
That's what's the point. I mean,
because let's be honest, especially as entrepreneurs, there's really no ending. We say there's an ending, we make a goal, but once we get to that goal, we just set a new goal to a new level and so forth.
It's a Pecos Mountain.
Yep, exactly.
There's absolutely no top.
Yep. So you have to enjoy that ride. You have to look around and see the scenery every once in a while and just relax out of it. And dude, that small victory is so cool.
Yeah, I'll sleep when I die. Yeah.
What has it been? 47 minutes, 50 minutes from now? That is 100% the personality I get from you. You are full energy. Go.
Yeah.
And not in bad ways. Like you're focused, you're organized, you have your goals, you have your plans, you know where you're going, you know why you want to be there. And so, dude, that's so cool.
Recently, I met a really good friend, and she's been amazing in terms of she managed a hedge fund and super successful. A little younger than me and just shocking. I mean, talk about like being blessed, right? So I have a carpenter. He's a really good friend of mine, and he's the best, right? He's a master carpenter. So I called him up, and I'm like, hey, I need this trim work done on my home. And like, so, you know, I've been living alone for a while now when I'm on again, off again, my daughter. So I'm putting this addition on my home, hopefully to fill it with family and other people at some point. So Tony is there. His name's Tony Aquino. He's the best guy ever, right? Between him and one other carpenter. Anyway, we'll get off tangent. So every day I wake up, Tony is at my house, right, during the construction because he shows up and I'm getting ready for work. And so much so that it's turned like we've been friends a long time, known him for, I don't know, 18 years at this point, maybe 15, something like that. So Tony's bringing me breakfast every morning. We have coffee every morning. He literally has been at my house during the last 4 months of construction every single day.
Oh shit!
So you know, it's like
you want breakfast in the morning from your contractor? Call Tony.
And he has such a funny way. He calls me, "Hey baby, I got a bagel for you," or whatever. So you know, during this period of time, I wanted to do a little small investment deal, and he just got to meet my sister-in-law, and they do happy hour all the time as a family. In any stretch, we do a small deal together. This person says how much you need, tell them how much you need. In 3 days' time, turns around, sends me docs, 3-page docs, wires the money, and she says how long you need to pay back. I said 8 months. So I gave it back to her in 2.
Damn.
So she says, and by the way, which is a person who's doing $10, $20 million deals. You know what I mean? This is not like, we're not talking about that in this case, right? So such an amazing person. We meet at a happy hour, and that's how we struck this, right? So through that, we've all become really good friends. We're doing dinners and all this kind of stuff. And she says, you know, I'm celebrating the years in business with all my clients. And she said, I'm going to rent out this private island. She says, do you want to go? No, I don't want to go.
Get the fuck out of here.
So I'm like, well, who's going? She's like, well, 60 of my friends, family, and clients. And I'm like, you're putting me on. I'm like, well, how much do I got? She's like, no, it's all taken care of. So out of this, I fly down. It's in the Keys. It's a private island with 60 people, and I'm one of the lucky 60. And I felt so like, and out of that has just become like an amazing friendship and mentorship for me. And you know, it's just funny how you meet people. Like,
dude, your ability to hold on to those connections is awesome.
I mean, not to mention that that was the most amazing island experience. I've never been on a private island with like
best
60
fucking happy
people.
hour ever.
Well, then they, you know, I won't get too far into it, but every night was a theme night. So like, I usually go to a vacation like that with like, you know, a Speedo and some flip-flops.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Exactly. Maybe one T-shirt if you're lucky.
Yeah, here I got like a tuxedo for this night and a Halloween costume for this night, and you know, and it was just an amazing experience. I mean, felt really blessed, and it's just like one of those things. Like, I don't know, just meeting like amazing people along the way, and I didn't mention her by name because you probably didn't want me to mention her by name, but super cool, and just like, you know, I just, those things are born out of just doing what we do every day, and you know, I just, it's amazing that when you have other persons, and people gravitate to each other, I think, in that respect. And yeah, it's a couple of just other things that, I mean, I hope I get invited to the next
the next one. Yeah. But it goes back to what you said in the beginning out of it. I mean, you're willing to build the connections. 2, you're willing to put it into your network, and then 3, you're actually keeping them as friends. Like, you're not just using them and calling them when it's a project or this. Like, you're actually bringing these people into your family, and you're becoming friends with them, and you're getting to know them, and you're striking it past the chord of just, hey, this is a business transaction. You are getting to know them, getting to know what they want, and then all of a sudden they sit there and go, yo, this dude's pretty cool. I want to get to know him too. Like,
it's truly the other way around, though. I'm the lucky one. I'm the lucky one because of they allowing me to be in part of what they're doing. So, like, you know, and that speaks to also the work that we do in the design work, and to bring it back full circle to that, is like there's nothing greater than going to we get the design spaces. If you think about it, if you really think about its core, like we're entrusted with our clients to do, like we learn things about them that they may not be willing or wanting to share, but they kind of have to, or like what either they don't like, what they do like, what they're scared to do, what they're not scared to do. And then in terms of getting the opportunity to go to these spaces, especially like the commercial work that we get to do, and you see it on paper, and not all projects come to the vision that you start out with, because budgets are what they are, and projects, you want to use this brick on a building, or you want to use this material on the floor, and you got to get over that. Yeah. There's a reality to a lot of that, and that's also too like some of the younger staff is like, well, why did they trade it off? And then you realize that like, hey, there's these are
trade-off is a great word or phrase.
Yeah, there's businesses that they have a bottom line that they have to adhere to. So it's like, in those cases, like, just to go back to that, to be able to walk into a building that you design, like the interior, it's awesome. And to see them, like a business that will get to design their interiors and how that just, like, it becomes this other thing for you. It's now you get to go back and visit it, and go there and eat there, drink there. And then like, along the way, you learn so much too. Like in that restaurant space, you get to work, over time with some pretty amazing chefs, operators, people that just...
Some pretty shitty ones.
Yeah.
Yeah. Teach you how not to do things.
Yeah. You're like, unfortunately, they have happened, and you realize like, this isn't going to last long. Or I'll build it later. No, that's not the way it works. So, I don't want that for anybody, but, me included,
Yep.
I think too, like being an operator and have an entrepreneur, even being looking at people in the development side of it, and now in the restaurant space and other things, just starting my own business and learning, what you should be spending money on, or what it is that is going to help you to grow your business, and what things you need to do, what's maybe just good enough. I don't know. I think that's been a helpful thing for me to be an operator in some respects. Not everybody. It's like being a parent, right? You think that you know it all, and you think your parents had this playbook, and you realize there was really no playbook.
No book at all.
And entrepreneurs are usually winging it. They might get educated along the way.
What is it? Fake it till you make it in the entrepreneurial space?
Yeah. I mean, you try to be a little more informed, but I think too, like with respect to parenting and like I use that analogy, or they're not all that different from one another.
They're not. The risks you got to take, the rewards of the payoffs, the cost worthy of those risks that happen. No, absolutely. Do you have any rental properties, or are you strictly in the commercial space right now?
Not right now.
Okay.
I've had a few and then sold them.
You mentioned that you flipped a couple over out of it.
Yeah, some new construction projects.
Okay.
We've done over in the past. Not as much as I'd like to scale it now. I think we've had some opportunities now that I think in markets like where it's easier to see the bottom line being a little bit more worth your time.
Yep.
Margins that I think make it worth it, because obviously you got only so many hours in a day, and you got to figure out where to spend them.
Oh.
And so if you're not spending them, making money, what are you doing it for?
Yep.
I mean, there's an enrichment in terms of like the process we talked about earlier and things like that, but at the end of the day, it's business, so it has to generate a bottom line that makes it worth it for you and the people, be it an investor if that's your model, or in terms of your own personal investment in time and money or what have you. So. Oh,
I agree, and that's kind of the hard part right now is those numbers, crunching those numbers, working them, finding what works for you. I asked just because you have that entrepreneurial mindset out of it. Yeah. I could see you just running a portfolio and be like, I got this little thing over here. Well, I mean, I kind of self-manage that on Saturdays between 9 and 12.
The thing that blows my mind, but you can only when talking about the market, right? Like the interest rates were free money. Let's be clear.
Quite
3%
literally
is
free.
So my first home I bought back when I lived in Florida My rate was 7.5%. You would have thought I struck gold when I got that rate, and I thought I was like the luckiest guy on the planet. And then when it went to just under 7, and at that time you
just refinance. Oh my gosh!
And then before the crash, in '08, I think it was a little earlier in Florida, because you saw it. We had a hurricane hit, and then I knew I was moving back to Pennsylvania. I put my house on the market and couldn't sell it for 10 years. So I had that house for a long time. Was it 7? Maybe it was 8. It was a painful period. It was the most expensive 1-week vacation I could go on, because at that time no one could move anything. But the rates now, I mean, they're still at a level. It's just there's an adjustment, right? And to your point earlier with the affordable homes that we still do a lot of projects. Not still, we have a lot of projects that are in that $450,000 to $550,000 range.
And we need them.
And to call that affordable, by the way, is
hilarious, isn't it?
$250,000 to $300,000 is affordable.
I think the stat was minimum wage is right around affording at $322 or something like that is what they could technically quote unquote afford.
How much?
$322,000 or $328,000 for like a minimum wage person. That's like them not having the school bills, the car payments, and all that. That would just be for like housing.
Wow.
It's insane.
That doesn't sound too affordable.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
And to your point, out of it on the affordability part, how are these poor people? We sat there, and I know I'm only been in investment for 4 years, but I started buying houses, and the shells were, right around $75,000 to $100,000 over in maybe Manayunk and Roxborough, slightly out, and then you went to Cobbs Creek, you get like 35 to 55 for a shell about 5 years ago. And now Cobbs Creek is over 100,000 for a shell. Manayunk Roxborough is 200 and something if you're lucky to get a shell. Yep. And you got young people coming in, they're going, hey, these prices aren't that bad.
No.
And meanwhile, 5 years ago, I was like, what? Those prices weren't that bad 5 years ago. This is insane.
They were probably undervalued back then.
Right. But that's, to my point out of it, is when we were young, we thought those prices were nice and normal and easy.
Sure.
And the older generation was going, what's going on?
Yeah.
And now fast forward just 5 years, because COVID really put us through a quick push. This new generation's coming in, they're going, I mean, that's not that bad.
I mean, I bought a lot for $40,000 in Northern Liberties. This was, I think it was 8 years ago, and then we drew the project and then flipped it, built it for I think like $200 and sold the home for like $450,000. I mean, that was unheard of.
Yeah.
And I wish I just bought up like
all of them, right?
The whole damn block at that time, because at that time Northern Liberties was still a little bit of a fetch. Not
for
even then.
For a plot of land for $50,000 back then. You're like,
right.
I don't know, because as you say, building was right around $250.
Yeah.
And you're like, to get rid of this is going to be tight if I don't hit my timelines and so forth. And then all of a sudden the explosion comes, and you're like, well, shit.
we I mean, the other shift too I see is like in Philadelphia, for instance, like we're doing a lot of work in Northern Liberties right now. We've been pretty fortunate that way. Not as much in the Fishtown market, which is doing really, really well. We have a couple projects here or there, but we're designing a restaurant that's going to open this fall, called Sin.
Ooh. Down in Fishtown?
No, it's actually on Germantown Avenue in the building I mentioned earlier. So it's at 1102 Germantown Avenue. It's for our one client, Justin Beasy, who's doing that space, and it's a really cool concept. It's acronym for Steak Italian Nightlife, so it's that like steakhouse concept with Italian food, and we've been down there.
That's really cool.
Yeah, it's pretty. I'm excited for that one.
That's almost like the Florida coming up here for you.
A little bit,
because that's the first thing that flashed in my mind was Las Olas.
Yeah, right. And it would be, it's a really, I mean, it's an interesting concept because it's going to have, what we all love, and not too many people know Italian food. The steakhouse concept's always done well in the Philadelphia market. Like, it's a really smart play for him, and we were lucky enough to be a part of that. You know what I mean? Like,
you said that's opening in the fall?
I think so.
Okay.
So we've been charting that with just capturing those construction meetings a little bit more deliberately than we typically do, because we do it almost weekly or bi-weekly. And it's going to be really neat to see that kind of play out over time from, this empty shell to, and it's in a building we designed, the one I mentioned earlier.
So cool.
Yeah. So like
you really get to see like lifespans of these buildings, man.
Yeah, man, that was cool. Like we're doing the building and then I won't we had to get, that's another story within itself is like, we really need to get the drawings out. So with the clients, like we need this because we got to go to the bank with it. So they needed X amount of units and we had to get something together, like a vision for it. So we literally drew this thing overnight, and for it to be getting an award and all that kind of stuff, it's pretty awesome. But it's just,
no wonder why you guys were so shell shocked when.
What are you talking about? Yeah. But no, to see it get built, and there's an amazing team building the project and
That's
everything.
so cool.
Yeah, it's totally a blessing. Like I said, it is.
Do you see the market going right now for the architectural side of it more towards commercial space than residential?
I mean, we've seen an uptick in really not so much in office space, but in boutique office space. We've done a number of those now.
Okay.
I think it's because they're serving a certain client base that they the one I mentioned in Delaware. We literally designed a speakeasy. They have a wine room, they have a speakeasy room.
So cool.
They have a podcast room, not too different from what we're doing here. And then it's got it's got a lounge, and then they have the office above. It's kind of interesting, but because their client will be the type that'll come in and want to enjoy themselves, have a drink, and put them at ease.
Hang out, absolutely.
And it's for all intents and purposes, people realize. I mean, I think there's definitely we need to get back to working together a little bit on most fronts, but in terms of some of these spaces, they've been pretty different. So I think there's going to be one-offs, at least for us. The restaurant world, though, we've seen more restaurant projects.
Yeah, okay.
So which is cool.
Yes, because we saw so many. I mean, you said you were having your hard times. We saw so many close and not come back in the last 3 years.
Yep.
And not very many open up to take those spaces back.
No, and that's been to see them come back and get that opportunity, and they're a lot of fun. I mean, there are a lot of work.
They are
because you're not looking at flow of a space. You're also looking at the aesthetic, and then hunkering on what that's going to look like, and then you have all the other aspects of it, because there's a technical, what you're doing, the kitchen design, which we do a lot of the back house flow and function.
Damn.
So and we're pretty fortunate to have done enough of it that we think we know what we're doing. Just kidding, but but no, there's
always ask your head chef.
Yeah, right.
Please.
Well, I mean, there's always a couch quarterback somewhere. But
I used to be that in the restaurant industry because
why do they do this? Well,
corporate would come in and they would redraw the kitchen. I'm like, no, stop. Yeah. That's not functional for my people.
Yeah. But then on the so I think commercial. I mean, the way I see it is I don't have a crystal ball, but I think definitely our work. I think multifamily is going to slow for a period of time. I think it's going to be the norm for a while. A lot of these buildings that were being financed are becoming, they're going to have to get refied out, right? Yep. So, we'll see what happens there, and if rates adjust, I think that's only going to help them because these things penciled out at a certain interest rate. So hopefully, for all those invested in those things, they come together and they have a soft landing. But I think in the luxury market for us, I think in terms of single families is definitely where I see us having a lot of types of projects that we're going to do. I also see the affordable as a market that we're currently working in, and one that I think we could see more growth in. I think we do a good job of it, and again, I believe because we treat every project the same. Every client, small or large, is always the same. I mean, I do have aspirations for the firm and our talented team. I would love to do a little bit more hospitality type work.
Yeah.
We enjoy doing the interiors. We enjoy doing the planning side of things with, and so I mean the goal now is to really build in the infrastructure as a team to be able to really operate at fully like we need to, and that's going to be the next challenge.
That's awesome.
That's a welcome one now.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's one where you're open arms, bring it on.
Those are good problems to have.
Yeah.
Yep.
Dude, that's awesome. Good for you.
Yeah.
While we're on it, how can people get a hold of you?
I'm not that hard. I'm usually at the office or I'm at the restaurant. I'm just kidding. So we're usually by email is easiest, or by we have through our website. I know most people are on Instagram now, and more over than Facebook. So you can DM us, and that way we always have access to that. Or the website also has a portal. For
I love your website, by the way.
Thanks. That's it's like you wonder. I mean, it's good to have it, right? Because we've tied even some of our social media pages to it, so that it's always breathing new life. And that's a full-time marketed job. I mean, taking photos and video and all those things, and it's something that we're being much more deliberate about in the next, I think, the third and fourth quarter. Not think in the third and fourth quarter this year, we want to make sure that we're launching all that we're doing, because like for instance, there's people that work in the office that are just amazing people outside of their day-to-day job. And my partner is a fine artist. I tried to buy one of his paintings from him, although I couldn't afford it. And he's so gifted in that way. We have a woman who works for us, a professional dancer. Like we have these people and teaches, dance 3 nights a week to like a whole school, and like runs it. So like we have these like amazing people. We have so it's we want to like, I think it's really important to touch on that, like our team is. None of them are one-dimensional in any way, shape, or form, and just having the ability to we want to share some of that with some of our clients, and so they get to know them a little better and their sensibilities. I think, as a firm too, we don't even, we're so entrenched in what we're doing day in and day out, that we want to share more of and we're trying to be more, like I said earlier, we're trying to be more deliberate about it, our client interactions and how these clients become friends and almost colleagues at that point. You're a team, so it's I think. And I think a better product comes out of it because you build that comfort level with them. And, luckily for us, a lot of work is repeat work.
That's cool.
And I think
that speaks volumes too.
Yeah. I mean, not everybody, but, it's okay. We'd like to have more of those relationships because I think you can't really always judge. I mean, you want every project to go phenomenal, but sometimes, they don't always go according to plan. So the person that is more seasoned that understands that aspect of it, that's kind of a big deal. Like, hey, we had this issue here, and not to, rake anybody over the coals over it, but stuff happens.
Yep.
But no, we can be found on, like I said, the website, our social media pages, whatever. Yeah.
Dude, I love how people-oriented you are.
Thanks.
You always put people first. Every part of any story you have told today has always put somebody else first. And you pay attention to them.
I actually love people. It's a sickness.
You can kind of tell. I'm the opposite. I hate people. I hate human beings. No, but dude, you can tell. I mean,
look, man, life is better with a co-pilot. I don't care in what you're doing.
Your passion's always somebody's whatever. Like you'll take their whatever and you just drive with it. And dude, that's awesome. It doesn't matter what aspect it is. If it's your architect, if it's your interior design, if it's your restaurant, if it's your own personal business, if it's I'm sure your daughter feels the same way. And
I don't know about that one. I love her. I joked the other day. I'm like, your dad used to be pretty cool. She's like, you were never cool. So
dude, she is 13 going on 25, man.
She's like, Dad, stop. You never were cool. She's like, I saw that shirt hanging in your closet or something like that. So it's like, give a man a break, So, I'll show you embarrassing if you really want to embarrass you. So
I don't know if you ever saw it. It was a couple years ago on TikTok, I think it was, or Instagram, one of those. Daughter was going to go out in her outfit, and Dad came back and he put on the exact same outfit she had and goes, what's the difference? My cheeks are out, your cheeks are out.
Oh, yeah, I saw that. I wanted to unsee it the moment I saw it. Right?
Yes. But it gave you one of those aha moments that you're like, as a parent, I could really mess with you, kid. Yeah. You're like, you want to play these games? I can do that too.
It's interesting. Every year we go to the father-daughter dance, and it's always awesome, right? And some of my buddies also have daughters the same age. So it used to be that they would stay by you for at least half, the event, right? You do dinner with the other dads, and then you go to the event, and then maybe you get a couple slow dances. Well, I think I have one left, and which is next year. And then the one after that is going to probably be her wedding day. So you cherish the moments like that, and try to find time among all these things, and One thing is, even when she was little, is to bring her to the office. Doesn't happen as much now
Awesome.
because,
That's awesome.
yeah. So
That's one of the cool parts about real estate too. I do bring my kids, so it's so many different things: showings, vacant walkthroughs. I mean, I have them driving around, and they'll sit there and be like, "Oh, Dad, there's 2 meters on that house." They don't even know what a meter is; they just know what it looks like.
Sure.
And I taught them to find 2 of them.
Sure.
They'll tell me, "Hey, there's a for sale sign. Hey, the grass is long over there."
Yeah.
When I go to a seller's consultation, sometimes I'll send them with a little camera because they see things from weird angles, and they just start taking pictures of it. And
cool.
I'm like, that's a back crack. We should probably address that crack.
Well, the other thing will be if we go lucky enough to get out and go get some food or something, and we'll go there. I'm like, hey, Bub, what do you think of this place? And she's like, it's pretty cool. I'm like, oh, myself and the firm design. She's like, oh, that's cool, Dad. Or see that building there? We designed that building. Oh yeah, and then
Sweet,
cool. Okay. So, you gotta, I just think they're at that level where, there's always different levels within that. So it's cool.
Your buildings look awesome. I've seen them.
Thanks. We're, again, it's a team sport, and really to credit the clients we have, the staff we have, and that part of it to me is makes it all worthwhile. So.
Any specific advice you want to give any new investors or seasoned investors before we start wrapping up here for you?
Be fearless.
All right.
Absolutely be fearless.
That's fair.
You're the only thing between you, like what you want to do.
I can't echo that enough. The difference between somebody who actually is successful and somebody who's not is just taking action.
Yeah, I'm terrified every single day, and if you aren't, there's something wrong with you. So you got to be cautious, and not careless, and try to be as calculating as you can. I mean, control chaos to a degree is kind of how I work a little bit, but also comes out of it is like, deadline-driven firms like ours that need to be able to produce on a budget, on a timeline, in a time crunch, which is not atypical. And that's something that, you try to slow down a little bit, but sometimes it's just the nature of it. And if it's, so if you're going to be in that space and you're going to do something that matters in my mind, you got to be fearless. It's awesome. Most important thing. So.
That's awesome, dude. And as you say, it's not like you're careless. You're just calculated. And there's a big difference.
I've been careless before. Yeah. Let's be honest.
We all have been careless, and that's usually where those 5, 6, 7 figure mistakes come in. Where you're like,
no. You can't let, that's the other part. You can't let your ambitions get the best of you. And where you want to do everything. You want to do everything. There's some people in my life that have been amazing at checking me. That sounds good, or you look like you fly by the seat of your pants, and then you start to explain to them, I'm not. In fact, one of the persons I mentioned earlier was like, so wait a minute, you just want to go down to Florida? I'm like, we've been down there for 1 week a month for the last 4 years and didn't understand that. Just thought one day, I was like, you know what? Let's just enter another complete market out of the clear blue.
So you haven't been listening to me for the last 4 years.
Yeah, right.
Thank you for that.
So, not knowing any, but yeah. And the other thing I like to believe is not forgetting where you came from.
Ah, that's a cool one. And you have such a rich past. You grew up around all of this. You took it to your own level and made it your own thing out of it. So that's really cool that you bring that up. That's nice. I like that one.
It's important.
Yeah.
Yeah, staying grounded in what you do. Like getting here today and talking about these things is a little different for me. I'm not used to this. I just rather just do it.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Just be about it. If I were to share anything, nothing irks me more than someone all they do is talk about something and they don't act on it. It drives me bananas.
Paralysis by analysis.
Yeah, right. I'm going to do this. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be amazing.
That was me for 4 years in real estate.
Listen, it's...
And finally I got the balls to just... Well, I shouldn't say I got balls. My wife gave me them and was like, "You can do this." She encouraged me to do it.
Look, having a good home, a good stable environment with persons around you that support you is also very important. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely.
At some point you gotta let people dream, and to a degree they don't sound completely insane when they're on well, this is my goal. You sure you want to do that?
And to your point, the calculation. It's not like I walked up to my wife one day and was like, I'm going to quit my 6-figure corporate job and just jump into real estate. Yay!
Yeah.
I think I read books for about 2 years, listened to books on tape, read taxes, real estate, agents, buying, selling, flipping, anything and everything I could on my physical hand. But yeah, I made myself sit back for some time because I read too much almost.
I agree. I understand that completely. I mean, in '08, there was things I didn't know, right? And sometimes ignorance is bliss. Like not knowing what you're going to encounter and being able to like, oh my God. And then you have those oh my God moments for a period of time, hopefully shorter than longer.
Yep.
And during that whole period of time, you're like, again, like speaking on other persons, I'm always amazed at what other people have done and scaled and are much smarter than me, and like watching them and seeing how they've navigated themselves and, leveraging relationships in a way that it's beneficial to both parties is also kind of interesting to see other people do that. And like, I've been more intentional as well about that and try to, work with other people in a way because it's a better process. And if you can benefit, they can benefit from your involvement. I mean, everybody kind of, I hate to say it sounds cliche, but everybody kind of wins. So
it does. But that's kind of like your aura, dude. You don't bring a me winning attitude. You bring a team winning attitude.
Yeah. And
you will win if the team wins.
100%.
And again, we've only been talking for a little over an hour now, and I can pick that up on you instantly. I mean, that is just, you're not going to take the pride, but you will take every fault. If something goes right, you're giving it to your team. If something goes wrong, that was on you.
Well, and one thing with our work, and in terms of is a big word that has been thrown around a lot more, is accountability. And we're entrusted with, in some cases, projects that are worth millions and millions of dollars. Yeah. We have timelines that are also tied. I hate to say it, but most things in the business world, if not entirely, is tied to financial aspects of what we're doing and being able to execute on. And then, those things are, you got to be accountable for, people hiring you. And again, we try to get it right every time. And if we don't get it right the first time, obviously try to fix it. But it's those are things I think, really could be the difference maker for what we try to deliver on in terms of for our clients and for our consultants and partners over. And you learn that a lot of ways, right? So, I mean, I think that's helped us, having, mission statements, if you will, within our own practice, and then how we share in that and how people play up to it. So,
well, that's one of the reasons why it's so important for investors to bring somebody like you into it, because a delay is tens of hundreds of thousands of dollars and it snowballs.
Yeah.
So if they miss that first crucial delay, and it could have just been blueprints. Oh, I can draw blueprints. I can get anybody to book me. And they didn't hire you. And now all of a sudden they missed the blueprint deadline. And then all of a sudden now they're going to have to miss the concrete. And then they're going to have to miss the inspection. And then all of a sudden all those delays add up and add up and add up. And it was all just because they didn't want to hire somebody just to do some blueprints.
It was interesting if you recall, like, again, during the COVID crisis, they kept changing moving the goalposts with the 10-year tax abatement. So I remember like the week before Christmas, we had to get this large scale project in, right? So the whole team's working on it. Zamir's heading it up, and Adam from our team, and are cranking on these documents because they have to get them in because they'll lose the tax payment if they don't get it. And it's a huge project. It's actually down the street from here. It's under construction right now.
Oh, sweet.
So the first year that they had the tax payment that was going to get postponed or canceled out, we got them in on time. And then I won't tell you what happened, but the legal counsel didn't submit them in time, so they had to go. But then something happened, and then they got an extension, and then it like happened again or whatever. But the whole point was like I was just so satisfied that it wasn't our fault. Luckily for them, they were able to get it, and they were able to take advantage of the abatement. But
nice.
I didn't take any. I was just like an oh my god moment. Glad it wasn't us.
But now what can I do to get this result?
Yeah, it's like a 300 unit building, and you're like, oh my god, I would hate being on the end of that phone call.
Yeah. Talk about having different numbers than expected.
Yeah, 100%.
That goes from a profitable to a potentially unprofitable.
Not getting built.
Yeah.
Right.
And then sitting, unfortunately, unbuilt for years while it goes through litigation and everything else.
100%.
So yeah, that's nice out of it. Good catch and good finish on that one, even though it wasn't your problem technically in the first place. But this has been phenomenal, and we are unfortunately getting towards the end of it, and I don't want to take up your entire day.
It's all right. I can keep talking. It was kind of fun.
Dude, it kind of gets fun, right?
Yeah.
It's a little weary at the first, and then all of a sudden you're just like, screw the camera, fuck it, we can do this all day.
I didn't even know, we were talking, I didn't even know we were on. I thought we were just shooting the...
Dude, we were kind of just shooting the shit, and then you just started, going off on great shit, so I just hit kind of record on my end. I was like, I can put the intro in later. Don't worry about that.
I didn't know what to expect.
This is for all of our listeners out there too. This is what it is. It's a happy hour conversation. It's fun. It's laid back, and they just happen to hear it.
Do you want to hear something funny? Every time I see someone on a podcast, all I think about is how the hell do they have time to go on a podcast? And then here I am on a podcast. I'm like, now I'm like that.
And then I'm going to bring you back for another one and another one. Because I want to what I would love to do is be able to get you like, ooh, a project just started. Let's talk about it. And then 6 months later, where are you at? And then 6 months later, where are you at?
Yeah.
And just keep bringing you back in and keep talking about it. Because to me, what you do and nothing you do is short term. Like there's no overnight decisions. Everything has to be planned, meticulous, and thought out for this end goal.
Yeah.
And then work backwards.
Well, if you think about it, to start in 08 and to only be here is my point. And that's why I see other businesses. And I only chart, well, I mean, like, still like, feel like it's the first day of work. So like, I think there's so much more that has to happen. And there's so much more within me and what the potential and what we do. It's boundless. It really is boundless. And anybody that thinks it's going to happen overnight is out of their fucking mind. And you think you're not going to mess up, you're still out of your fucking mind. Because the truth of the matter is like, you're going to screw up. It's going to take longer than you expect. And it's never going to be the right decision every time. So if you're on board with that and you have the idea of being fearless and accountable and all these other things we talked about, like, it's gonna work out.
What time do you wake up in the morning?
It depends.
Between 3 and 3:30.
I usually a late nighter.
Okay.
Have a tough time decompressing.
Okay.
Last night was a late night at the office. I got down like 11:30.
Damn.
And got up at 6:15.
Dang. So you are still a morning person.
Yeah, every day now at 6:30. Maybe it's my age, I'm not sure. But it's an internal clock. I used to be a guy who couldn't get out of bed. I can't tell you how many times I was fired from firms for being late for work.
And here you sit today.
No, but I'm like being honest. I probably just didn't like working for them.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I think there's other things that you're just like, fuck it, I don't want to be there.
Yeah.
I'm going late.
No, I was like, please fire me so I can just have no other options, and I have to go to work for myself. But no, but now it's just like and all the things being a dad, like during the school year, getting my daughter to school. Sometimes even getting up earlier so that I can pick her up from school. And that's a mid-afternoon. Then it pushes me into later, or getting up so I can get into the office earlier, so I can hit the workout later, or vice versa. So no, I would work a later day, and that's kind of like how we. I have a mother. My mother's still alive, and she's 86 years old.
God bless her.
And she needs help. You know what I mean? And so she took care of me. So
now it's your turn.
Yeah, now it's my turn. Yep. So
I ask about the morning thing. For the sheer fact that you seem like somebody who's going to start their day and just keep going. I'm not going to delay it. I'm going to start my day and get going. And for anybody out there, that's kind of the entrepreneurial mindset you need to have. You can't have the mindset of, I can wake up at 9 today or 9:30 tomorrow or 10:15 because your day's gone. You're not going to get anything accomplished. You're going to fall into a video game. You're going to fall into something that you shouldn't be doing. Get your day started, get your day early, and get at it.
I also, not every day is a fun day, right? But, but what we're doing and the things we're trying to do as a company, you're living it all the time.
Yep.
So if you're not thinking about a project, you're thinking about maybe getting that project. You're thinking about what you got to do.
To get that project.
Right. Yep. When I early started out, I would go look at job sites on the weekend, and I would take Sophia with me. She was just like, a little girl. So she'd carry around her cat or whatever toy she was carrying at the time, and we'd walk job sites together. And so that was kind of cool. And then, my daughter is a fine artist like no other. And she has that gift like my mother has as a fashion designer. Beautiful. And she paints and draws, and I'm like, did you just draw that? So when she was little, she'd come to the office, and I'd give her a box of markers. And so that's been kind of an amazing seeing that happen. And it's like, I'm like, hey, bud, do you have any interest in doing design work?
Yeah, I could hire you as a 1099er, Pay you fuck the...
I can see her scratching that itch, maybe. I don't know. That would be cool.
Between people who can draw and musicians, those are two things I don't have. Like, by no means have. My handwriting, people can barely even read. Half the time I go back and read my notes, I'm like, is that a B or a Q?
Yeah. Well, she plays. That's the thing. She plays piano. She plays guitar.
Oh my gosh!
She's right now. I just dropped her off. She's got. She's in what do you call it? Drama camp. This is like her. I think like 7th or 8th.
She's got a cool brain, dude.
Yeah.
She's got a really cool brain.
Yeah.
Keep that active. Keep that going.
Yeah. So it's cool seeing that. So.
Has she started doing and I know this is way off topic. Have you seen like the shoe and T-shirt design, like web designs on like the iPads that you can create that kind of stuff?
Like 2 years ago, she won some T-shirt design thing. She won some kind of grant or something, and she's pretty gifted in that respect. It's pretty cool to see, her utilizing it too. You know what I mean? Like it's not.
Yeah.
And it was cool to have that encouraged. That was encouraged by, by my family.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Again, you grew up around it. You've been around it your whole life. The fact that you've been around it your whole life, the fact that you've been able to put it into your current life and then be successful at it.
Well, it was funny, I went to parochial school, right? So was reading, make sure your neckties on and, you're on time for class, which I never was, or, and then we had art class, right? So art class was always something I excelled at. Some of the other classes were very difficult for me, right? So I get into college the first time, because I always played athletics, so I thought I was going to play in college. Really wanted to play in college until I didn't. But my point was, and at the first college tour I went on was for one of the few schools at the time that let me in for architecture. I remember turning to my parents and saying, "Oh my God, I swear to God, this is true." And I'm like, "There's people like me in the world," because they're all talking about design, and I'm like, "What the fuck?" Yeah, I thought I was the only one that liked enjoyed drawing and stuff. And so I'm like, you can make a career of this? I'm like, people are going to pay me to draw? I'm like, this is rad. And so not having, and not understanding it because, it wasn't if you'd be an engineer or you're going to be a school teacher or whatever it was, because Catholic school was all about, discipline.
Yeah.
So.
Dude, that's how I found in college. I majored in hotel restaurant management. So when I found out that you could be paid to throw parties, basically, is the way I looked at it.
Yeah.
At that age,
so you were telling me I could have used you when I opened the restaurant the first time.
Hotel restaurant management. Thought I could get paid to, literally just put on parties every weekend because that's what I was doing in college.
Sounds like fun.
It sounded like a great life.
Yeah.
Then kids came along, and kids didn't like you throwing parties every night and not being home. So,
awesome.
That was where my change came from out of it. But James, this has been absolutely phenomenal.
I appreciate it.
We're definitely going to be doing another one of these.
Thanks for inviting me.
Any last little things you would like to get out before we wrap up?
No, I just hope this doesn't come off corny.
If it's corny to you, don't listen.
I'm kidding around. It's been great, and I appreciate all the questions and just sharing your experiences. And
dude, your fingerprint on this city is awesome, and I don't mean this in a bad way. It's a nice silent fingerprint. It's one of those where you are touching so many different things and hiding, and people don't even know how many little things you're touching. Yeah. And it's so cool because, again, they're landmarks within this freaking city.
Yeah. And
here I am. I visit your shit constantly.
Thanks.
And now I know that's actually yours. That's fucking awesome.
Yeah. Well, it's not just me.
I know. It's your team. It's your group.
Yeah.
Again, I'm going to give you praise because I know you're going to give it to everybody else. But yeah, dude, this has been amazing. Thank you again. I really do appreciate it. That's the end of this episode of the Atomic Real Estate Show. There will be more actionable, atom-sized bits of advice that you'll get free for the taking on your next episode, so be sure to tune in next week.
Thank you again to our listeners. Thank you again to James for being so generous with his time and insight into the world of just about everything. Dude, again, you touch everything within the city, and that's awesome. This has been a Direct Subs production. Check them out at directsubs.com. I look forward to hearing from all of you in our comments, and please remember to like, share, follow, and subscribe wherever you choose to listen to the Atomic Real Estate Show.
If you enjoyed our episode, please consider supporting the show by rating and reviewing the podcast. Also, check us out on Instagram at Atomic Real Estate Show to find out when new shows drop and to participate in our community Q&As. The Atomic Real Estate Show was brought to you by Direct Subs. Direct Subs is the #1 place for real estate investors to connect with local contractors for their flips, rentals, renovations, and new construction projects.